Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of AEW Dynamite as well as WWE NXT for April 29th, 2020. I will be giving my thoughts on both shows. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, before I begin with AEW, Ken, terminated by Google, who is a moderator in the chat room, sent in a super chat, which I missed from the last stream. He mentioned that he's a huge Greg Cherry mark, and he was upset about Greg's live stream being shut down by YouTube. Apparently, that was a mistake by YouTube because the video was back up. I am thinking there will be another Greg Cherry stream this weekend, but you'll have to check with him. Make sure you guys follow Greg on his YouTube channel, youtube.com/GregCherryBrand, and buy one of his shirts and check out Wrestling Trivia Challenge on his channel. All right, let's start with AEW Dynamite. We had a Cody and Darby Allin video package. Cody talked about their previous encounter, and he's still frustrated about that because it was a draw, and as far as he's concerned, a draw is still a loss. He talked about how he cannot challenge for the world title, yet he is the number one ranked superstar or wrestler in AEW. We had the match between these two, and it was back and forth. At one point, Rhodes got into the crossfire. Darby charged at Cody, but he moved out of the way, and Brandy got knocked into the barricade. Like I said, back and forth match between these two. We had Britt Baker at ringside hitting Cody with a shoe when the referee was distracted. Brandy Rhodes returned later, and she had a bottle of water to give to Cody to try and get him hydrated. But then Darby used the water bottle on Cody. Eventually, Cody came back, hit the crossroads, which Darby kicked out of. Cody then attempted Darby's own move, the coffin drop off the top. Darby got his knees up, and then Darby went up to the top and hit his coffin drop. And you would think this would be the end of the match, his finisher, but no. Somehow, even though Cody got hit with the move, Cody managed to roll himself over, and Darby got put down onto the mat. His shoulders were down, Cody's were up, and Cody Rhodes scored the 1-2-3 victory over Darby Allin. Even though Darby hit Cody 100% with his move, Cody still managed to pin him. Weird finish. I cannot say I was a fan of this finish, but the match itself I thought was really good overall. I just think it makes Darby's move look really weak, but hey, that's my own opinion on it. Cody is now in the finals of the TNT Championship Tournament match, which will take place at the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. We had another Scorpio Sky video package talking about SCU. He mentioned that he doesn't want to go down as being great. He wants to go down as being an effing legend. We had an MJF video. He talked about his hangnail injury, how he saw the nail doctor, the best nail doctor in the country, by the way, and MJF revealed to the world that he has made a miraculous recovery. And it was announced that next week, AEW will be live and MJF will be back, apparently back in action because he's made such a great recovery from the hangnail, that very devastating injury. We had Wardlow pick up a victory, pretty quick squash match here. Knee to the face followed by his airplane spinning him around and then just dropping him to the mat. DJ Whitey with a $20 super chat. Thank you very much for that, DJ. He says, the No DQ Galaxy loves you, buddy. Hope to meet you one day. Thank you so much for that, DJ, and I hope to meet you as well. hopefully sooner than later, we'll all be able to get back to somewhat of normalcy, but that remains to be seen when that will happen. But one day, DJ will make it happen. We had part 3 of the Bubbly Bunch because it's in such high demand. And this one might have been the best one yet. Actually, I will say this was the best one yet. Chris Jericho was on his workout bike. We had Sammy Guevara bragging about winning the Flim Flam Challenge from last week. He had his prize, the bottle of hand sanitizer, and he said that if anybody has a problem with it, they could suck his bottle of sanitizer. And then we had this parody, I guess, of the Don't Rush Challenge on TikTok. I am not on TikTok, by the way. Snapchat and TikTok are two things I have little to no interest in, leaning towards no interest. We had this, I guess, parody according to Cindy, so I'm going to take her word for it because she's way more up to speed with TikTok than I am. All these people made cameos, people that have not been on Dynamite for a while. Jungle Boy was part of it. We had Peter Avalon part of it. Ted Irvine, Chris Jericho's dad, a person who I thought was Lanny Poffo at first, but it was actually Lou Ferrigno, the Hulk. Virgil, a.k.a. Soul Man Jones. Kevin Smith, a.k.a. Silent Bob. And Jay. We also had Vicky Guerrero making a cameo. This was a really fun segment. You could check out the video over on NoDQ.com. It was called the Manitoba Melee. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. We had a tag team match, which was also a lot of fun. Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc versus the Best Friends. And Orange Cassidy got taken out of the match right away with a chair from Jimmy Havoc. This was a brutal match considering that it was empty arena. These guys went all out for this. You had chairs, you had ladders. You had these guys taking some crazy bumps in this match. Jericho was really funny. He had a great line here talking about how these guys were doing the honorable thing by making tags in no DQ matches. Thank you for that, Chris Jericho. That has always been one of my pet peeves in wrestling. When you have no DQ matches, cage matches, and people are making tags. Why are people making tags? What are the consequences if you just get in the ring and do a tornado style? Who's going to stop you? It's no DQ. I never understood the logic in tags in no DQ matches. So thank you for pointing that out, Chris Jericho. Commentary line of the night. Although I will say NXT had some great commentary tonight because, I'm jumping ahead here, but Mauro Ranallo was back and back for the entire show. I believe this was the first show other than that one women's ladder match that Ranallo called from his home in California. This was the first time we had Ranallo doing commentary, I believe, start to finish since the pandemic shut everything down. So anyways, we'll talk about NXT here in just a minute. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, if you're not tagged in, you cannot pin your opponent. Oh, well, you could still do a ton of damage and then tag your opponent once the damage has been done. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. Anyways, another cool thing in this match that I liked personally, Jimmy Havoc using a Three Stooges finger poke. That was great. I appreciate that very much. We had Orange Cassidy getting involved. Before that, Chuck Taylor did a pile driver to Kip Sabian on a bunch of chairs, or maybe it was just one chair. Penelope Ford made the save, pulled out Sabian, and that's when Orange Cassidy got involved and was counteracting Penelope. And I love Tony Schiavone on commentary too, calling Orange Cassidy one of the greatest managers of all time. And Chris Jericho was outraged over this, saying that Orange Cassidy is too lazy. Orange then got on the top and did a dive onto Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. And then we had Chuck Taylor hit the awful waffle to Jimmy Havoc on the chairs to pick up the victory. And after the match, Best Friends and Orange Cassidy did the thumbs up. I give this match a solid thumbs up, not just an Orange Cassidy thumbs up. This was really good. And considering there's no crowd, these guys had, I would say, almost a pay-per-view quality match here. This was really good stuff. We had a Britt Baker video segment from her dentist office. She had pictures of Tony Schiavone in her lobby. And we had her chatting it up with Rebel from Impact Wrestling. So she's part of AEW now. Britt talked about the rules of being a role model. And this was basically just roasting Tony Schiavone, saying that unless you are a doctor, you do not wear glasses. Showed a picture of Tony wearing glasses. Said that you suck it in for your photos. And she had to Photoshop Tony's gut. And then she brought up how you don't smile with bad teeth. And of course, showed Tony's teeth. Tony on commentary after this was like, that's not how his teeth look. Those were doctored pictures. We had Shawn Spears defeat an enhancement talent named Baron Black, and he picked up the victory with the sharpshooter. Guess it makes sense since Shawn Spears is Canadian. Marshall Leonard, how do you get on Wrestling Trivia Challenge? You got to tweet Greg Cherry and get that set up. He is taking on all comers, by the way. We had a Marco Stunt video package, and this led up to Marco Stunt versus Brody Lee. Marco put up a great fight. We all knew he was going to get his ass kicked, but he was on the verge of getting counted out, but he got back in the ring. He refused to just take a count out. So I did like this. Shows that Marco Stunt has some guts. But in the end, he got beat with the sit-down powerbomb from Brody Lee, the Exalted One. We had a Jon Moxley interview video from Nevada, Las Vegas. He talked about how just 2 months ago, he was the AEW World Champion with this big crowd cheering him on. And now everything's different. But he said the tough times will not last forever. Eventually, he'll be reunited with the fans. He talked about this being a time to reflect. He's thankful for a lot of things, his wife, AEW, and so on. He said that next week, AEW is live, and he is coming back to work. He's bringing his dogs, and he's going to take care of business. And he also ended it by saying to everyone, don't forget to call your grandmother. We had our main event of the evening, which was Lance Archer versus Dustin Rhodes in the other semifinal match of the TNT title tournament. Dustin got busted open during this match. Not quite as bad as Double or Nothing from last year, but he still got busted open. Lance Archer taking advantage of it. Dustin managed to make a comeback. He hit the crossroads, but Lance kicked out at 1. Lance kept trying to put away Dustin, hit a choke slam, Dustin kicked out. He did the Undertaker walk on the ropes, but then did a moonsault instead of just the big jump with the fist to the back. Dustin kicked out of that, but it was not looking good for Dustin. Lance took off the turnbuckle pad and started ramming Dustin's head into it. Eventually, we had officials coming down. Cody and Brandy came down. Cody had this towel, and we were wondering, would Cody throw in the towel? Cody did not throw in the towel, which led to Lance putting on the Iron Claw and scoring the pinfall victory over Dustin. Really strong ending. Unlike the Cody match, I thought this finish was great. I thought that this was really well done. And we got Dustin bleeding there like crazy and Cody with the towel. I really enjoyed this. And now we got our first match set for Double or Nothing. Cody versus Lance Archer to crown the first TNT champion. So really strong ending here. And overall, I was very entertained by this show. So I think Tony Khan was pretty accurate saying this was one of the better AEW Dynamites. If this had a crowd, I think this very well could have been like a top 5 Dynamite. Although I don't think it would have been exactly the same show because I don't think we would have gotten as many of the video packages and whatnot. But the video packages, I thought, helped make this show. I really enjoyed the Bubbly Bunch and Britt Baker's segment. So we had a lot of good stuff on here, good matches, good skits. So overall, very strong showing by Dynamite. And we got some big matches set up for next week, which I'll talk about here in a few minutes. Psycho Jet Black with the $2 super chat, thank you for that, says, will MJF cost Cody the match against Archer? He could, but I think it would be better if this match had a clean finish. You're crowning a new champion, and I think it's important to have the title established well without interference and that sort of thing. I think it should be a totally clean finish at the pay-per-view to crown the first champion without resorting to people interfering and so on. To kick off NXT, we had a recap of the Cruiserweight title tournament up to this point. Charlotte was shown arriving. As I mentioned earlier, Mauro Ranallo was back. Also, Beth Phoenix was back. We had our first match, which was Isaiah Swerve Scott versus El Hijo de Fantasma. They went back and forth here, and eventually Scott picked up the victory. He cut a promo after the match saying he respects Fantasma, and he noted that he needs the win more than not just Fantasma, but everybody else, and he is not going to be denied. We had Dominic Dijakovic. I suck at pronouncing these guys' names. Dominic Dijakovic. Dominic D. Like Dr. D. David Schultz. By the way, I need to check out that. I have fallen behind. I did watch the Brawl for All one, which was funny just because of Jim Cornette and Vince Russo going back and forth, and Cornette just ripping Russo to shreds. But anyways, that's for another live stream. We'll talk about that at some point. That and the Dr. D documentary. Make sure you guys check out the Herb Abrams one. In case you guys haven't seen it on the channel, I posted a video of my dad talking about his experiences with Herb Abrams in the 90s. And I met Herb Abrams. That dude was crazy. Make sure you check it out, Dark Side of the Ring on Vice TV this coming Tuesday. And Darren said he loved the video. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So anyways, Dominic said that Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae, they do not respect anyone. They complain about everything. He challenged Gargano to a match for next week's show. And then during the commercial break, it was revealed that Fantasma got jumped again by the masked guys, but he managed to escape. So who knows what's going on with that. We had Candice LeRae against Casey Catanzaro. Again, I suck at pronouncing these names. Why does NXT always have to have these names that are very difficult to pronounce? Or maybe I just can't pronounce them. But I always struggle to pronounce the NXT names. Now hold on here. Ken terminated by Google with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much for that, Ken. He says, thank you for reading my Monday's super chat. By the way, I really like Mr. Riff's shoot video on Herb Abrams. When did you meet Herb and any shoot thoughts? I will talk about Herb Abrams more at the end of this stream. I will not forget about it, Ken. So stay tuned for that, and thank you for the super chat. Eric Robinson with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Eric. He says, I've been watching for years, but first time super chatting. Keep up the great work. Much appreciated, Eric, and I'm glad you've been watching and following the channel. Thank you guys for all the super chats. I do appreciate it very much. Now, Candice LeRae came out with new music, new Titantron. Johnny Gargano did the ring introduction for her, calling her his favorite wrestler of all time. I loved this. I thought this was great. And it was Candice versus Casey. And Candice also has a new finishing move, which is the move that Super Dragon of PWG fame would use. His version of the curb stomp, which is basically a surfboard stretch, and then he just stomps your head into the ground. Candice's version is called the Wicked Stepsister. I love it. Candice LeRae has history with PWG, so why not use Super Dragon's move? I thought that this was great. Everything about Candice with her repackaging, her heel turn, I think is great. And I've been singing her praises for the longest time. When I saw her wrestle in PWG, I thought, like, she should be in WWE. She could be a top star. And I'm glad she's finally getting the opportunity. She's going to be a top star. It's just a matter of when. But she'll be on Raw and SmackDown. She'll be a big deal. And this was maybe her biggest moment to date, because this whole repackaging of her, great stuff. Everything improvement. The music, the entrance, the finisher, love it. Great stuff here. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, will you ever get a no DQ tattoo on your body? With that for the super chat, and no, I'm not a tattoo guy, so if I was going to get a tattoo, it would certainly not be the no DQ logo. As much as I'm a mark for myself, I don't think I would go that far. And after the match, by the way, Candice got back in the ring and attacked Casey some more. Put her in the Gargano escape. Again, thumbs up. Loved everything about this. We had a Damian Priest promo talking about his main event match challenging Keith Lee for the North American title. He said the running is over for Keith Lee and he's going to finish what he started months ago. Then we had a very interesting segment. I'm curious to know what you guys thought about this one. Matt Riddle came out with Timothy Thatcher, his new tag team partner, because Pete Dunne is stuck in the UK due to the travel ban. Riddle talks about how tag teams that are thrown together are looked down upon, but they are going to prove that they are the best tag team, and they already know each other well. Matt Riddle then introduced a segment here called the Newly Bros Show, a parody of the Newlyweds Show, hosted by Byron Saxton. Oh, I was cringing this at this point when Byron showed up. We had fake crowd noise. Saxton asked them a bunch of questions. One of the questions was, what did Matt Riddle have for breakfast? Timothy said he had no idea. And that's what Matt wrote down because he figured that Tim would have no idea. So they do know each other. And there were a couple of more questions. Tim was asked about, or Matt Riddle was asked what Tim's favorite show was, and Tim said he doesn't watch TV. There was a speed round, and Matt said he doesn't really do speed. Speed is not his thing. We all know it's something else that Matt likes to partake in, bro. Then we had all of a sudden the Imperium jump in, attack them from behind, lay them out. This was an interesting segment. I felt like Matt Riddle was very funny, but Byron Saxton would make me cringe, and I feel like the negative was overweighing the positive here. If we had Pete Dunne, Timothy Thatcher was fine, but I still think Matt and Pete have the chemistry. I think if Pete Dunne was in this, I think the positive would have outweighed the negative, but Byron Saxton in there, I wasn't blown away by this segment. Byron is just so cringy with all this stuff that he does. That Steve Austin segment. It's one of those things where if I was a casual viewer, Click. Moving on here, we had Adam Cole cut a promo, and it was revealed that next week he will defend the NXT Championship against the Velveteen Dream. Cole talked about how the Dream is an experience that nobody wanted. Interesting that the Dream is, in fact, doing this match with Cole next week, despite the recent allegations made against Dream. We'll see what happens next week. Will we have a new champion finally in NXT? Will the longest reign come to an end, or will it continue? That will be next week. Next up, we had Mia Yim versus Charlotte Flair. Pretty back and forth. Definitely not one-sided, but in the end, Charlotte did pick up the victory with the figure eight. And then after the match, Io Shirai came down. They had a confrontation, and a match was set up for next week. So Io Shirai will get her championship opportunity against Charlotte on next week's show. And speaking of next week's show, we had a video package with Killer Cross, or Karrion Kross, whatever he's called now. And Scarlett was there in the video with him. So they are a package team here. And next week, the clock stops. Loaded show next week. We got Velveteen Dream challenging Adam Cole for the NXT World Championship. We got Johnny Gargano versus Dominic D. We got Charlotte versus Io Shirai. We got Karrion Kross apparently making his debut. Really big show next week. And as I mentioned earlier, AEW also has a loaded lineup for next week. They advertise next week's show as being live. Jon Moxley will face Frankie Kazarian. That should be fun. We got Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega teaming up together against Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Going to be a fun show next week for both AEW and NXT. Business definitely picking up. And MJF, don't forget MJF returns next week from his near-death injury, the hangnail. Backstage, Candice LeRae got in Casey's face again and said it's a new NXT. We had Dexter Lumis, who I'm still not sure if he's a babyface or a heel. He's scary as hell, so one would think he would be a heel, but last week he came out and was a babyface, so who knows with him. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, is it true that Cody can use the Rhodes name again? Well, it sure looks like that based off of the recent trademark filing news. I know there are a couple of trademarks that Cody does not have yet that WWE doesn't seem ready to let go of. But the name Rhodes looks like Cody should be able to start using that name again. Dexter Lumis versus Shane Thorne. Dexter picked up the victory via submission. Then we had Keith Lee with a promo hyping up his match with Damian Priest. Said that last week Priest gave it his best shot, but now the beating that Priest gets will live forever. It will live in infamy. We had another cruiserweight tournament match. Tony Nese versus Drake Maverick. Again, the announcer's talking about how Drake's contract will be coming to an end soon. Nese dominated the match, but Drake would not give up. He almost got himself DQ'd because he got so worked up at one point. Nese suplexed him into the corner, but then missed a running knee, and Drake picked up a near fall. Then he went for a flying elbow. He missed, and it looked like Drake was going to be done for, but then he came back again, hit a diving bulldog off the top rope to score the pinfall victory over Tony Nese. Drake Maverick ain't done yet. He cut a promo after the match, said it was a sweet victory, and Kushida is next. He's going to beat him. He's not freaking leaving yet until he wins the Cruiserweight title. So I guess once he wins the Cruiserweight title, he's done. That's his final goal here. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen here, but will Drake Maverick actually pull through here and somehow keep his job with WWE? Apparently, he has not been rehired, so we'll see what happens. We had our main event of NXT, which was for the North American Championship. Keith Lee versus Damian Priest. They brawled on the outside for a while, and Keith ended up hoisting up Damian, which is quite impressive. I know Keith is a big dude, but so is Priest. Priest is no small man. And Keith basically picked him up and tossed him like he was Rey Mysterio. Tossed him over the barricade all the way to the apron. But then Keith ended up being sent into the barricade. They got back into the ring. Back and forth match here between the two of them. Priest did a chokeslam, which Lee kicked out of. And then when the referee was distracted, Priest went for his nightstick, his baton. However, Lee was able to block the shot with the baton. Lee gave the baton back to the referee and then hit not one but two power bombs to pin Priest and retain the North American Championship. Overall, really solid show. I thought both shows were better than last week. I mean, I would say B plus for AEW and maybe a B or even a B plus for NXT as well. Both shows stepped it up this week. And next week, I mean, we could be back to our glory period minus the crowd with AEW and NXT. Both shows very loaded for next week. And a lot of hype for both shows. Now, going back to Herb Abrams. So there was a time that I did meet Herb Abrams, and the thing about this guy is that he put on a facade. He had this house, which I'm not even sure he bought or rented. He had this house in the foothills of Los Angeles, very expensive. Anybody that lives in California knows it ain't cheap to live there. He had this house in the foothills, and in the foothills, it's even more expensive. But I don't think he could even afford furniture. My dad and I went into his house, and it was practically empty. It was this big house, but he had like no furniture in the house. I think it was all about putting on a show, trying to give people this impression that he's rich. He's got this big house in the foothills, but he had no furniture in it. So yeah, Herb Abrams was, I mean, the guy had money apparently, but he had drug problems. And you'll find out more about that on Dark Side of the Ring. Make sure you guys check it out on Vice TV coming up this Tuesday. Thank you guys so much for watching the No DQ live recaps. I do appreciate your continued viewership and support. And as Mike B says, check out my personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRift. I got tons of cat videos and all that good stuff. I have no idea if Herb Abrams sold drugs. That I don't know. I never even saw him do drugs, but the guy was very eccentric from my memories. And I only met the guy a couple of times, but he just seemed like a strange fellow. Thank you guys again for watching. I appreciate it. Check out the No DQ review coming up tomorrow night, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, with the No DQ panel. And then, of course, I'll be back Friday night to review SmackDown. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. And I will see you all